Folks, we start the morning with this out of Ferguson, a new municipal judge shaking things up. He said all of these warrants that took place before 2015, throwing them out. Judge Donald McCullen is tossing out tons of warrants, court dates, and fines for minor violations. He's ordered that all arrest warrants for minor infractions issued in the city before December 31st, 2014 be withdrawn. These changes come just 5 months after the U.S. Department of Justice criticized the Ferguson Police Department for profit police tactics, saying the department is working with the court system to raise revenue. Defendants will get new court dates and options to pay their debts. This includes payment plans as well as community service. Now, folks, the Black Lives Matter movement was born from a desire to end police brutality. However, it's been criticized for not demanding specific policy changes. Well, there's a new initiative called Campaign Zero, which is 10 policy solutions to combat police brutality listed on their website. The list includes an end to broken windows policing, calls for community oversight, limiting the use of force, calls for independent investigations and prosecutions of cases, and increased community representation, a call for police body cameras, also more police training, a call to end for-profit policing, and the militarization of law enforcement. Also, to institute fair police union contracts. Two of the authors of the plan join us via Skype: Brittany Packnett in St. Louis, Sam Singyagwe in San Francisco. Also on the panel here, Malik Drake, Dr. Avis Jones-DeWeaver, as well as Dr. Cleo Monago. Brittany, I want to start with you. How long did it take to put this together, this Campaign Zero?
Well, I think it's important to note, Roland, that the movement has always had demands, and they've been online and offline, that we've been crowdsourcing these. And so what we were really doing with Campaign Zero was connecting the dots. And so over a course of a few months, we connected those crowdsourced community and activist demands, effective research and data that has taken place all over the country about this, including the President's Task Force for 21st Century Policing, and connecting those dots to a really critical election year. And so it took a couple of months, but really, when you look over the entire year, we've seen those demands come out from this movement.
Sam, the other thing that people don't quite understand is that there's a difference between making, we discussed this yesterday on the show, there's a difference between making demands on the federal level, but then when you have what's happening on the state level. First of all, New York Justice League, they had their various demands. I've seen demands from folks in Ferguson and folks in St. Louis. So isn't part of this problem that people are looking at the, quote, Black Lives Matter movement and ignoring the reality that really you have a combination of people and groups who are operating in cities, counties, and states that are actually moving forward with their own initiatives that are not tied to somehow this one national sort of plan?
So I'll say, just to speak to your point, I mean, it's going to take action at all levels of government, local, state, and federal, to really end police violence in America. And I think, you know, that will take on a different look and feel in different cities and states across the country. But what's important is that it's really grounded in an understanding that it takes comprehensive change at all levels of government to really achieve a world where the police don't kill people. And I think that's what's really articulated in Campaign Zero.
And so when we talk about, when it comes to Campaign Zero, that comes under which group? Is there a national entity that falls under, or, Brittany, is it a matter of, as you said, really multiple organizations? And so if someone says, well, really, who is the author of this? How do you then answer that?
I would answer that the authors are the people, that the authors are the researchers, the data scientists, the policymakers, the academics, the everyday citizens who for the last year have been making their voices heard. And these are the kinds of comprehensive changes they've been talking about. So what Campaign Zero offers is a comprehensive one-stop shop platform for those policy issues specifically geared toward police violence. We've been getting a lot of feedback from the community, which we've been asking for and specifically requesting about how do we keep this conversation going and include broader issues of criminal justice, drug enforcement, et cetera. But what you see before you is not necessarily an organization, but a platform that brings all of those things together, all of those voices together.
I want to go to our panel here. And again, folks have been saying for quite some time, which has been actually false, that somehow there was no organization, there were no demands. The reality is it has existed, and so to me, this is the next phase, if you will.
Exactly. It's been there. It's been there from the very beginning. What's really brilliant, though, about this is that it's coalesced around a very specific website that has been able to really piece together all of this information that lots of people have contributed to this discussion over this last year or so. And now, for anyone to come out and say, "Well, where are the demands?" There's one specific place where people can go to say, "This is the broad array, but this isn't the beginning. This isn't the end. This is the beginning, really."
Cleo, the issue that I have with people saying, "Where are the demands?" For me, it's really, well, what are you going to do? I mean, it's sort of, there's some people who are making that criticism who don't want to put some skin in the game. It's simply trying to figure out a way to criticize and to discredit.
Yeah, I mean, of course, something called Black Lives Matter is going to have to deal with a potential trove of people trying to discredit it. And I think it's a great list of policies that they finally revealed on a national scale. But I have a suggestion, if they don't mind. I think they should add a policy of policemen who have killed people who are unarmed cannot make money off of the situation. Like, for example, some of these people who have, like, what's his name in Ferguson?
Oh,
the killer,
Wilson.
Darren Wilson, Zimmerman, et cetera, that some of them made over $1 million in one case in terms of contributions after they did this, and that should not be allowed. And they should not get help on bail. They should not benefit and profit off of killing unarmed people.
Yeah.
Malik?
Well, I agree with everything that said. It's actually a very complex issue, though, because on the one hand, we have these officers who are involved in these deadly force situations, but at the same time, it is part of the legal process, and in the beginning, they are presumed innocent. And so, regardless of what we see on these video cameras, the process says that they're innocent until proven guilty, and that goes back to your point. All these donations came from people contributing to their legal defense. And I agree with you, they should not be able to profit, but the question becomes, where do you draw the line and say they have a right to defense, but they cannot profit?
They have a police union that's going to pay for their defense. I mean, that's not an issue. The point here is that these people are seeing that it's a payday to kill black people in America. It is a payday.
Yes.
Darren Wilson is a millionaire now because he shot dead a black boy in the street.
But I think, to Malik's point, I don't see where you can have a legal standing to prevent somebody who has not been charged, who has not been tried or convicted from writing a book or from speaking. I mean, you have Son of Sam laws that are put in place for individuals who have killed and gone to prison. I think what Malik is saying is nobody's even indicted or gone to jail. So what is the apparatus to actually stop someone from doing that? There really is none.
Right.
Just like critics could say, well, we're going to stop folks from giving money to Michael Brown's family. There's no apparatus to actually do that. I do want to ask this question here of Brittany and Sam before we go. One of the things that jumps out when you talk about a community oversight, what specifically does that mean?
Well, important community oversight includes what we call community oversight with teeth. So we want to make sure that any kind of body, a community oversight body, is truly representative of the community in terms of its structural diversity and perspective, but that they have the real power to actually subpoena people involved with investigations, including police officers, that they can make recommendations that will be upheld by police departments and municipalities. You know, I think something was said earlier about the nature of this, and I just want to say, you know, we've got a very clear vision that we fully believe that we can live in a world where the police don't kill people, and more broadly that marginalized people in this country, black people in this country, can continue to live into their full dignity and honor as human beings. But this is a specific campaign, right? And that is movement language. This is a specific campaign around police violence. And so there are, again, specific policies and comprehensive policies geared toward that. And we're hopeful to see this campaign be one of many throughout the movement.
Folks, Shelley, pull up my iPad, please. This is joincampaign0.org. This is the website, and you can actually go to the website. You can see these 10 policy points. You can also see information on the site where it states exactly where the candidates stand on these particular 10 points. And so, Brittany and Sam, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, coming up, a woman in St. Louis posted a rant on Facebook that goes national where she trashes the Black Lives Matter movement. She's a black woman. We'll talk about it with our panel. Also, a new book details how Hurricane Katrina led to an attempted mass cover-up of the New Orleans Police Department when shots were fired at people trying to escape the city. We'll talk to the author of the book, plus America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, is here with tips on how to gear up for school without breaking the bank. 11 after the hour, News 1 now on TV 1. Folks, we continue our discussion regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, this time looking at it from detractors, black detractors. Peggy Hubbard from Ferguson, Missouri, took to her Facebook page last week following the protests that erupted after 18-year-old Mansour Balbay was killed by police. This is what she had to say about 9-year-old Jamila Bolden, who was shot and killed by a random bullet while doing her homework.
Hi. I'm Peggy Hubbard. By now, you guys already know what happened in St. Louis last night. Police officers went to go, pretty much what they did was they went to execute a warrant for an arrest for a very, very bad guy. When they came to get him, instead of going peacefully, having his day in court, he decides to pull out another stolen gun, shoot at the police. Police shot back, and he was killed. Within the same time frame, news broke out about a 9-year-old girl in Ferguson died in a drive-by shooting in her room doing her homework. She dies by a stray bullet to the chest. Last night, who do you think they protested for? The thug, the criminal, because they're hollering police brutality. Are you kidding me? Police brutality? How about black brutality? You black people, my black people, you are the most violent I have ever seen in my life. A little girl is dead. You say Black Lives Matter? Her life mattered. Her dreams mattered. Her future mattered. Her promises mattered. It mattered.
Now, this post by Peggy got over 7.4 million views. I want to talk about with our panel. Let's go right to it. And here's what's interesting. Some people are angry that she actually put this rant up. But there are a lot of other folks who are saying, I'm sorry, she's right.
Well, you know, Roland, first of all, what happened was very unfortunate with the young girl. I think we can all agree upon that. But these are not mutually exclusive movements, right? She can have a legitimate argument, but the Black Lives Matter movement can be legitimate as well.
But I think the point that she's making, though, she says 2 incidents happened on one night, one in St. Louis, one in Ferguson, protests about Balbay being shot and killed, nothing about a 9-year-old girl doing her homework and a bullet entering into the home and killing her. It's not like two different, I mean, you're talking about in the same, pretty much the same area.
Well, the difference, though, is one of them is state-sanctioned violence against a particular community. I mean, the police represent the state. Or what happened with the young girl, I don't even know if they know who the shooter was.
And I think that's her point. I think her point is, do we have the same reaction, the same level of protest when a 9-year-old black girl is killed by senseless violence compared to, and what she said, wait a minute, she said, even though it's state sponsored, she's saying, here's a guy who she called a thug, and my point is, do we easily dismiss what she has to say, or does she have a point?
Well, she has a point, but unfortunately her point is poisoned with a problem in this country, which is anti-black venom. She said black folks are the most violent people there are. And if she actually got out of her anti-black reaction and read FBI reports, she realized that other people do violence as well, and that most people in this country are harmed by people of their own race. So,
but should we be just as angry that a 9-year-old black girl does? And so, okay, so if the answer is yes, but do we have the same reaction? Do we take to the streets? Do we, what do we say when that happens in our communities that's not involving cops, but that might involve folks who look like us?
There are people taken to the streets in local communities regarding inter-community violence.
Right. But what this woman is saying is, in Ferguson, nothing happened regarding this girl?
There's a couple of things here that are conflating this issue. Number one is it was a girl. Let's just be very clear about that. There typically is not the same level of reaction in our community when a girl or a woman is killed than there is when a man or a boy is killed, whether or not it is intra-community violence or police on community violence. Let's just be very frank about that.
Right.
Number two, she also sort of definitely puts out misinformation with regards to where we are at the state of black-on-black crime. This is a horrible incident, and a horrible incident in any way, shape, or form. But the reality is that in the past 20 years, black-on-black homicide specifically has gone down by 2/3. 67%.
Okay. This woman, here's the piece. This woman is not trying to have a nationwide conversation. She is trying to make an apples to apples comparison.
I understand.
And what she is saying is, in our area, she is saying an 18-year-old kid gets killed by the cops, a 9-year-old girl dies by a stray bullet. She's saying protest on Mansour Balbay, nothing on this 9-year-old girl.
And here's another reason why. The third reason why is this. That person who killed that girl deserves to be put under jail. And most likely right now, if they haven't caught him, they're looking for him. And he won't be charged.
But here's my question. But here's my question though. My question though is, do we have the same reaction in our community where we rally and then we go door to door and we're saying, turn this person in? See, and again, look, I understand all of your points, but I also understand her anger when she says that you will have an instant reaction to the 18-year-old shot and killed, but it's sort of like, yeah, that's unfortunate.
Well, but she's not comparing apples to apples. She's comparing apples to oranges because part of the
no, she's comparing shooting to shooting.
Shooting to shooting.
She's saying two shootings, 18-year-old black guy, 9-year-old black girl, one in St. Louis, one in Ferguson. She's saying massive, she said protest on Mansour Balbay, nothing on a 9-year-old girl. She's comparing two same night.
She's comparing two deaths, but she's not comparing the details. See, the problem is that with the police shooting, people are not just responding to a death. That's bad, but what they're also responding to is the unequal treatment. What happened to Michael Brown would not have happened to a white teenager. It just would not.
No, I understand that, but my point is this here. If a 9-year-old girl is killed by a stray bullet, are we going to take to the streets? Are we going to go door to door? Are we going to tell folks in our own community, turn this person in? Whoever killed that girl deserves to be turned in and charged.
We should.
But we should, but will we?
Well, there's a lot of things that we're not doing.
Okay, on this case.
And the reason why Black Lives Matter even has the momentum is because the press finally got an investment in it for whatever reason. Okay. They have not invested in what we do in our communities and an accidental shooting of a young black girl.
Hold tight 1 second. I need to go to this real quickly. Please go back up to the prompter, please. There's a brother, we always focus on African Americans who are missing, oftentimes black women, but there's a guy in Lithonia, Georgia, 23-year-old Elijah Schuler from Lithonia, Georgia is missing. His mother last saw him on August 15th on his way to work at the local Pizza Hut. He never returned home. His brother, T.W. Addison, joins us via Skype. T.W., real quick, I got about 90 seconds. And so this was August 15th when he came up missing?
Yes, sir. The last time we physically seen him was the 16th. He went to work and to get his hair cut that Saturday, and we haven't seen him since.
Did he actually show up at work?
He showed up at work. That is correct.
And so he also showed up at the barbershop.
That is correct.
And he was last seen where?
From my understanding, he was last seen dropping a co-worker off from work, and that was it. Can't get him on the telephone. We can't find his vehicle. The GPS, nothing. We're clueless, and we're asking for help. And we thank you so much for at least shedding light on this situation. Yes, my brother's 23 years old. Elijah Schuler. We started a campaign, GoFundMe, hashtag Help Find Elijah.
What was he what was he last seen wearing?
To be honest with you, Mr. Rowland, personally, I don't know because I'm in Dallas, Texas, and my brother's in Lithonia, Atlanta. But I would assume it was maybe his Pizza Hut gear, things of that nature. But it's sad, sir, because we see these things on TV all the time,
right?
And it hits home, and it's different when it hits home now.
Again, folks, 23-year-old Elijah Schuler is missing from Lithonia, Georgia. If you have any information, call the DeKalb County Police Department, 770-724-7600. Also, what's the number on the screen here, which is different from what I'm reading here? What number is this, folks? Okay, so I have two numbers. Call 770-724-7600, 678-406-7929. So TW will also put it out on our website, so hopefully your brother will be found safe and alive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rowland. Thank you, News One Now. Thank you for everything.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much, folks. Coming up, we'll talk with the author of a book that details 6 folks who were shot at as they tried to cross a bridge trying to get out of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Also, America's Wealth Coach Deborah Owens has tips to get everything on your school shopping list. Also, how to save money. It's 25 after the hour. News One Now on TV One. All right, folks, back to school time. That means, you know, you got drama. You know, you got folks sitting here getting ready, parents all sad their kids going to school, and a bunch of y'all about to go broke. Because you don't know how to tell your kids hell to the no when it comes to some of the stuff they want to buy. Deborah Owens joins us right now to break down this whole back to school thing. Y'all know I'm not lying. Y'all know I ain't lying.
I mean,
because I don't understand. I don't understand whatsoever. So let's just get right to it, Deborah. Back to school spending. Pull the graphic up. Supplies, $98. Shoes, $118. Yeah, that's one pair of tennis shoes. Electronics, $197. Clothes, $219. Real quick right there, you almost talking about $600-700, and that's on a low. That's the average. We know it's more than that.
It is, and no is a complete sentence. Let me just put it that way.
Hell no. That was a sentence in my house. The sentence in my house was, "Hell, you out your damn mind? Hell no, we ain't buying that." That was a sentence in my house.
I'm sure. I was a bit more diplomatic with my kids.
Not Reginald Martin or Imelda Martin. Lost your damn mind. I think we're gonna buy that for you.
Well, here's the deal, though. Back in the day when, you know, you shopped for supplies, you didn't have all of these things additionally that you had to buy. You had some papers and pencils. Now they want USB drives. They want sanitizer. And so parents actually have a lot more responsibility than they've had in the past. But as you see, there's some things here that you can control, and those are the things that aren't necessarily on that list. And so what I want to share with folks today are just some tips that they can use so they don't bust the budget.
First thing, make a real list.
Did you say sanitizer?
Yeah, and sanitizer.
Yeah, dog.
Absolutely. That if you, and you know, so here's the deal. One of the first things you need to do is take a list and obtain the list from your school's websites on what is absolutely necessary.
No, hold up, right. What's necessary?
That's right. And one other tip, though. If you're like me, a lot of that stuff that you shopped for last year is probably sitting in a bin somewhere. So first, check what you already have, right? So take a list. As it relates to the other not have to, but wants to, give your kids a budget. Say, you know, this is how much we can spend. If they want to spend it all on...
Okay, stop right there. See, that's the first mistake right now she made. Give your kids a budget. They don't have a budget because they don't have a job. You got the budget, and you say, this is what your little behind getting.
But listen, Roland, that's the whole reason kids don't know how to manage money.
No, I ain't y'all.
Because they really, no, seriously. If you don't allow your kids to understand that you have so much money and when it's gone, oftentimes parents are just shopping. So the key is to give your kids, okay, you got $100. That's it. If you want to spend it on shoes, if you want to spend it on whatever, because that's how you teach kids how to spend responsibly.
Hey, y'all can teach all that later. But when it comes to school, this what your little behind getting. You ain't getting a choice. You're going to have some dress shoes, some tennis shoes. You're going to have, you ain't getting no choice.
Anyhow.
See, he's still embodying his parents.
No, I'm with, no. Look, me and my wife raised my 6 nieces. What no votes going on? There were no choices.
Well, you know, Roland, and I can appreciate that. But what I would say is one of the main reasons kids have no clue as to how much money is being spent is because they're never given any responsibility.
Oh, no, they don't know.
So the best thing that you can do is give them those dollars so that then they can see once it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
I mean, that's the best advice I can give any parent.
Right, that's nice, but they ain't making no choices. When it comes to school budget, that ain't happening. All right, well, let's get, you said first of all, what's rent versus buy? What is that?
Rent versus buy. So some of our panelists have college students, and the bottom line is the average textbook costs $200.
You're right.
You're much better off renting. You can go to the different sites because oftentimes many of those books are going to be out of date in the very next year. And so really parents need to think about, particularly for their college students, renting versus buy. The other thing is negotiate.
Okay.
A lot of stores have policies where they're price matching.
Okay.
And so if you go online or either get that sales circular that you get in the mail and you go in there, even if they don't have the actual item, you can get a rain check, but you've got to be willing to negotiate and come prepared.
What are church drives and hair promotions?
Church drives, for example, my church, every year we have people take backpacks, fill them up, right? Fill them up, and a lot of times I know people feel somewhat uncomfortable asking for help, but I mean, as in with our church, it's not just for our members, it's anybody in the community who needs school supplies. So check your local church to see if that's available.
Okay, any of y'all go ahead, Ava. I know you want to say.
I'm just dumbfounded because every year I am faced with this issue, and it just seems like to me those lists just keep getting longer and longer and longer. You know, what is a realistic budget that parents can really stick to? Overall.
Got it. About 30 seconds.
Okay, so the average family spends about $600. I think you have to, in your own family, think about where do those dollars need to be sent. So typically, for a family of, let's say, three, $200 per student is about what you're talking about. But most of that is driven by schools. The fact is, schools' budgets are strapped, and that's why you're spending a lot more money and buying things like hand sanitizers and tissues and that sort of thing.
Well, guess what, kids? We strapped too. So you ain't getting designer clothes, designer shoes, because they all run the same. And if you care about impressing your friends, well, hell, they don't live here. So I ain't worried about that either. So raise your kids to have some good self-esteem, and that way you don't go broke. Go to DeborahOwens.com/news1now. Y'all know I ain't lying. For Deborah's tips and money tips as well, especially all y'all freaking out about the stock market on yesterday.
Yeah.
Deborah, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. When we come back, send me